Well, I'm very torn on this because although I am going to recommend the film, and I do think it was a very great film, and it does justify its length, I think some people are misrepresenting both the quality and what happens in the film. And this is a no spoiler review, so I'm not going to get too much into the plot elements, which is not critical anyway, since this is more of a character based focused story. But even there, I think people will be shocked that despite its massive length, there are a lot of gaps. I do mean a lot of gaps in the story that Scorsese is trying to tell, and that's fine. It's based on a very interesting book, which I did not read entirely, but I did skim. It's a very intriguing book, and Scorsese, like The Irishman, deciding to take just part of the source material for his own purposes. That's fine. He's an artist. He can do that. But I think the choices he made ultimately were very frustrating, although this is an insane cast. It's not just the lead actors. When you go through the entire cast, he has really assembled literally like an Avenger style level of talent here. But even though this is very similar to Oppenheimer in terms of the size and scope, subject matter, even in terms of war, corruption, humanity, I think this falls far short of Oppenheimer. And a lot of people were annoyed that Oppenheimer was too long. It wasn't too long for me, but you got the vibe that people thought this was a little too pretentious. I don't think that's true for Oppenheimer, but I think here this is more style than substance. Essentially, what we're getting is the story of the Osage tribe and how they were both lucky, but also in a tragedy of finding this oil and amassing this wealth, which attracted essentially killers. And the story works through the incidents that happen, accumulating all this wealth and kind of corruption that takes place both outside and inside these families tied to the Osage tribe. And that's interesting enough for a while, but the film is oddly both repetitive and yet never really quite says what I think it's trying to say. And I think that the ending especially will be very, very controversial, that he can do as he pleases, but I did feel really unsatisfied with a lot of the film, although the central performances with, of course, Leonardo and Robert De Niro are great and excellent, and he does give a lot of time and effort to Molly, the female character. I thought that was very well done. You still feel that certain parts of the story are not being well told, and when they do come in, it really feels last minute and it just isn't helpful. And the scope and focus of the book is a little different than this. So there, I think I understood what the author was up to. And I'm glad that Scorsese chose a different route. But then when he chooses that route, you gotta be critical. I don't think it paid off the way it should have. So it was a little disappointing. That said, this has many excellent elements: cinematography, costume, production design. They put an incredible effort to put you back in this time period. And the acting is stellar. But ironically, the weaknesses here are the writing and directing, which seem deliberately unfocused in a few places, which is fine. It's supposed to be ambiguous, but in a few other places it just feels we're not going anywhere. And why we're not going anywhere, I don't know. But Scorsese makes these very strange choices, and I think it's going to polarize a lot of people who feel, even after 3 hours, he didn't really touch the subject matter the way he should have. And that's very disappointing. So I'm going to give Killers a solid 8.25, but it is far short of a masterpiece.